What is Bitcoin? Cryptocurrency has been on the rise in the past few years and it's continuing to grow. Various variations of cryptocurrencies have been released as the years go by, and they all have millions of users. There have even been cryptocurrency that emerged from a meme and became famous, receiving millions of users. However, the very first and most famous cryptocurrency in the world is Bitcoin. Whenever people hear of cryptocurrency, the first thing that comes to their mind is Bitcoin. Even after knowing it, they still go ahead and ask, what is Bitcoin? And that is why I'm here to explain to you what Bitcoin really is, in a language that everyone will understand. Welcome to the Crypto Sharks, the #1 channel for all things crypto. We use stories and analogies to help you simply understand complex topics. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe so that we can keep helping you learn and make money. One of the most searched questions on Google is, what is Bitcoin? But before we answer that question, we first need to talk a little about money. Money is an everyday thing. People say that they want to make more money. Every day of our lives, we interact with money in one way or another. But have you ever asked yourself what money really is? As we all know, money represents value. If I give you a service or do something for you, you will give me money in return for the value I've given you. In the future, I can go and use the money to get something of value from someone else. Over time, the value had different forms and people used different materials to represent money. Some of them include salt, wheat, shells, and most common of them all gold. But for these things to represent value, people have to trust that they're valuable and that one day they will use them to get something of value from someone else. About 100 years ago, something was always used to represent money. However, as the years went by, people went from trusting something to trusting someone. But what do I mean by this? Since bars of gold were used to represent money, people found it tiring to carry them all around all day. This led to the invention of paper money. But how did it happen? How did it begin? Let's say, for example, 1 bar of gold represents $1,000. People would give the bars of gold to the bank, and in return they would be given receipt certificates, which we can call bills, amounting to the same value. So if someone gave 2 bars, they would be given bills amounting to $2,000. These pieces of paper made everything easier since you did not have to carry around gold, so it was easier to spend less instead of cutting up our gold bar to buy something less than the bar's value. If you wanted your gold back, the same thing happened. You would take your $1,000 in bills to the bank, and you would be given your gold back. Remember, gold was the actual form of money. This was the beginning of paper being used as money because it was more practical and convenient. As time went by and macroeconomics changed, the bond between the paper receipt and gold faded away. By this time, the government told people that it would be responsible for the value of that paper money. Basically, it was doing away with gold and using paper money. So the people continued trading with the paper receipts with nothing but the government's promise. The only reason this worked out was because of trust. People ended up trusting the government's word that the paper bills had money, hence the birth of fiat money. Fiat is a Latin word that means by decree. This means that the dollar, pound, or any other currency out there has value because the government says that it does. This is known as legal tender, meaning that the coins and banknotes should be accepted as payment for anything. The government in this case acts as the central authority that controls the value of today's money. This changed the whole dynamic from trusting something to trusting someone, who in this case is the government. However, even though fiat money came to help, it has 2 main drawbacks. The first one is that it's centralized. There is a central authority that controls and issues the money. This is the government or the central bank in today's world. Second, it's not limited to quantity. The government has all the power to print as much money as they want, whenever they need it, and this would inflate the money supply in the market. The only problem with flooding the market with a lot of money is that the value of each dollar drops, and eventually, your money will become worthless. When the price rises, it's not the price rising but your money losing its purchasing power. Eventually, you will need more money to buy something that used to cost less. Fiat money led to the introduction of digital money. The main idea behind this was to let the central authority that's issuing the money make the money digital while keeping track of who owns how much. Right now, digital money has become so rampant that it's being used everywhere. This has been made possible by credit cards, wire transfers, PayPal, and other forms of digital money. The amount of physical money in the world has greatly reduced, and it's still reducing as everything is becoming more digital, including money. But how does digital money really work? Assume you have a file representing $1. What is stopping you from copying it 1,000,000 times, making you richer than you were? This problem has been there for some time, and it's known as the double spend problem. Banks mostly use a centralized solution. By doing this, they keep a ledger on their computer, which has all the records of who owns how much. This means that everyone has an account, and each of them has their own records. The ledger thus keeps a tally for each account. It's a whole cycle, as we trust the bank, and the bank trusts its customers. This makes it all centralized on the ledger on the computer. There were many attempts to create an alternative digital currency firm that would solve the double spend problem without a central authority. However, none of the attempts actually worked. So whenever you give someone control over the money supply, you give them tremendous power, bringing up 3 major issues. The first one is corruption. Too much power corrupts the mind. So when banks have the power to create more money, they control the flow of value worldwide, giving them close to unlimited power. If you want an example of how power corrupts, have a look at Wells Fargo's scandal, which was a few years back. Most of the employees would secretly create lots of unauthorized bank and credit card accounts with the aim of inflating the bank's revenue stream. This was without the knowledge of the customers for years. Another issue is mismanagement of the centralized system. The central authority may mismanage the money, especially if its interests are not in the same as those of the people in control. An example would be printing a lot of money to save a certain bank or institution from collapsing. Printing too much money causes inflation, making citizens' money lose any value it had. The last issue is control. You have no control over your money whatsoever, since you're leaving all the control to the banks or the government. This means that the bank or government can freeze your account or deny you access to your funds at any time. The government can even cancel the legal status of your currency. Come 2008, everything was about to change. In October 2008, a guy who went by the alias Satoshi Nakamoto published a document online. This document had suggestions on how a system for a decentralized currency could be created, which led to the creation of Bitcoin. According to him, the system would create digital money that would solve the double spending problem without using a central authority. Bitcoin does not have any central authority, and it is transparent. But what does this mean? Bitcoin has some major differences from a bank account. With digital money, the bank manages its own ledger of balances and transactions. This ledger is not transparent, as it is stored on the bank's main computer only. However, for Bitcoin, it has a transparent ledger. You can have a look at the ledger anytime and look at all the ongoing transactions and balances. The only thing you do not know is the person behind the transactions. This makes Bitcoin pseudo-anonymous, meaning that everything is open, transparent, and trackable, but you cannot tell who is transacting. Bitcoin is mainly decentralized. This means that there is no computer storing the ledger. In fact, any computer that participates in the system keeps a copy of the ledger, which is known as a blockchain. So if you're thinking of bringing down the system or hacking the ledger, you would have to do that to thousands of computers, which keep a copy and constantly updated. Bitcoin is also digital. Bitcoin never had any physical form, and there is none. The only evidence of Bitcoin is rows of transactions and balances. So whenever you happen to have Bitcoin, it means you can only access a specific Bitcoin address record in the ledger and find the funds from it to another address. But what does all this mean? What makes Bitcoin such big news? Since digital money was invented, this is the first time that an alternative to the current system has been developed. Bitcoin is digital money that is not controlled by any of the governments or banks. For example, before the internet, the flow of information was mainly centralized. If you wanted to know anything, you would look at the New York Times or the Washington Post, among others. Right now, information on the internet is decentralized and you can instantly communicate and learn anything from anywhere in the world. You can think of Bitcoin as the internet of money. It has offered a decentralized solution to money, solving problems that have always been there. And it has several advantages. You have complete control over your money since you're the only one with the access to your funds. It cuts a lot of middlemen from transferring money, making it cheaper than wire transfers or money orders. Bitcoin is digital in nature. And last but not least, it does a great job of opening up digital commerce to 2.5 billion people worldwide who don't have access to the current banking system. Some merchants accept payment with Bitcoin, but not that many. Most of them choose to remain in the old ways. That brings us to the end of the video. I hope you know now what Bitcoin is. And if you have any questions, Feel free to leave them in the comments section and we will answer them. Before ending the video, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you get future whiteboard crypto videos like this one. We promise to keep it simple for you. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you in the next one.